Our very last player of the week for the 2024 soccer season goes to Miss Caroline Reynolds of the 6 and 7 Halcones team. Coach Zach says Caroline always has a positive attitude, always shows up for practices and games ready to play, and always smiles. During their last game of the season, it was extremely competitive, and Caroline rose to the challenge. She scored an amazing goal in the last game based on sheer determination and willpower to help her team. Caroline was extremely easy to coach, and she got along with her teammates great all season. Good job, Caroline. You are our last player of the week. Our last Coach of the Week, sponsored by Lasso Works Cedar, goes to Candace Stewart of the 6 and 7-year-old Avengers. Candace always sends these amazing Player of the Week nominations for her kids. Not only is she great at writing player nominations, but her energy on the sideline during game day is next level. She's so encouraging. Whenever you look at her on the sidelines, it just genuinely looks like she's having a great time. So, Candace, thanks so much for coaching this year. You are this week's Lasso Works Cedar Coach of the Week. All right, welcome to episode 26 of Winning with the Home Team. Today we have a special guest, my friend Brooke. Brooke, what's up?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and then there's Todd.
Yep, I'm back.
Yep, Todd's back.
I'm the third wheel today.
Dude, no way. No,
Yeah.
You've got a lot to give always, for sure. Hey, so we just ended our soccer season. Ended it?
Yeah.
Our soccer season. It's over. It's over. And it was a great season. We went and talked about grit with the coaches and kids and the families. And we used the acronym of GRIT. It stood for gratitude, respect, impact, and toughness. And as I thought about someone who we could bring on and talk about grit, there was only one person in my mind that could do this and have a ton to say and a ton of wisdom to drop.
Yeah.
And that's you, Brooke. So welcome.
I'm humbled and thankful to be thought of with that word, especially from you. So thank you for having me.
Can I just say, I've known her for 30 minutes, y'all. That is the right choice. You made the right choice.
Dude, I know.
Yeah.
I know. Grateful that you said yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've known Brooke for, I don't know how long, maybe 10.
Over a decade.
Okay.
Sure.
Right. But I'm not old and you're not old either.
No,
Yeah,
not old at all.
100%. And the first time, I remember specifically watching you. Because talk about impact, like you've asked me who's impacted my life or like what sports ministry. And I said, I love to watch coaches make an impact on the court, specifically how they coach, what vibe they bring, what they're wearing, like how they walk up and down the court with heels. Right. And Brooke, you do that still, right?
Yeah. Still got to get the stomp in.
Yeah. And it's like, it's one stomp,
yeah,
right?
It's like it's a attention.
So I remember that about you. Yeah. And so Brooke has all the swag. Like I
don't know about all the swag, but I got a huge
You got a ton.
I appreciate
you got
that.
a ton.
Thank you.
You got a ton. And so, man, Brooke, like I could list off all the things that I know about you and what you've done as far as coaching and leadership, and but it still wouldn't be enough to just say how much you've influenced the kids that you lead, and also just me personally. So,
thank you.
Yeah, you've coached for how many years now?
So I started coaching in high school youth teams, so it's almost 26 years on and off, but about 20 years as far as public school.
Yeah.
Professionally.
Yeah. And you played basketball.
I did.
Dallas?
So I kind of bounced around because of my Army career. So I started at Sterling College in Kansas. Okay. And then I finished after my first tour of duty in Iraq. I finished at University of Texas at Dallas.
Yes, that's where the Dallas came from in my mind. Yeah. So served on 3 tours.
Yes, 3
overseas.
Tours to the Middle East, 2 combat deployments, and 1 was a kind of a non-combat support deployment.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember you from your days at Martin High School.
Yeah.
Warriors.
Good days.
Yeah. You exchanged the red M for the gold M.
Absolutely.
Is that right?
Yeah. Yep. The red M is still family and part of my heart, but
100%.
I love the gold M.
Yeah.
So we're rocking.
Yeah.
That.
Yep. So now you're at Mansfield.
Yes.
Yep.
And you are the girls coordinator there.
Yes.
Is that the right title?
I'm the athletic coordinator with, it's co-coordinator. So we don't do by gender, we do by season.
Nice.
So we try to support all sports regardless of gender.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, you've always been a leader to me, and in ways that you probably don't know. You've impacted me. So today...
And by the way, back at you. If y'all don't know, Katrina's who I call in when I don't know the answers. Like, come help me. Let's pray over this team. Let's serve this kid. So the feeling's mutual.
Yeah.
I've never heard anybody say I call Katrina when I don't have the answer.
That's fair. Todd, that is totally fair.
That's awesome that y'all have mutual respect that way. How long have you been at Mansfield, by the way?
I'm going on my 4th year.
4th year. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep. We so I worked with you at Martin High School doing the character development, the inside out coaching. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah. It's a huge part of our program. I found out not too long ago I had some kids visit and they thought you were actually like on staff as our counselor. They're like, yeah, it's like a college we get a counselor. I was like, no, it's just Katrina coming and hanging out, like loving on you. But yeah.
She works at Dairy Queen. Like, I don't know. She just wanders in.
Yeah. Got your ice cream. So Brooke, a part of that, working with your kids at Martin High School you wanted us to come up with like a team purpose statement, right? Remember that? And do you remember your purpose statement in 2016, 2017?
I can't say by word I do. I hope it's similar to now, but I would imagine it's different. I think your purpose changes a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. It was pretty spot on. So your purpose statement was to empower young people to live and lead with hope, drive, passion, empathy, and leadership. And you spelled leadership a different way. Do you remember what the leadership was for?
Probably like the Army's loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage.
And man, I mean, that encompasses who you are as a person. Yeah, it really does.
Stole it from the Army.
So, yeah. And then in 2016, 2017, this is what your team's purpose statement was at Martin High School. The Lady Warriors will remain humble through success and resilient through adversity by being role models that people look up to on and off the court and demonstrate a team chemistry that consistently exemplifies hard work and honor.
That is so good. And I remember that team and that they lived that. And I'm sorry to stop the podcast, but I need to invite you to the Mansfield Tiger practice to help us do that again this year.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
The way you crafted that out to facilitate their ability to develop that and bring their heart out was really powerful. And we haven't had that.
Yeah.
So please come back.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll work it out for sure. Well, okay. So let's talk about grit for a second.
Okay.
All right. So, So Brooke, if you were to define grit over the course of your, 20 plus years of coaching, I'm sure that you've talked about it 1,000 times, right? Because I could just hear you in my mind talk about that. How would you define grit?
I've looked at y'all's acronym for grit, and now I can't see anything else. I think it is the most beautiful definition of grit because I actually don't use the term grit a lot in the past. I think I'm stealing it. But grit tends to look like toughness to me a lot, and when people talk about it in the sports world. Mm-hmm. But I think toughness is sometimes oversimplified, right? It's not just like physically tough. It's not just mentally tough. Those things go hand in hand, but it also comes with a level of gratitude to be able to go out and be tough because you're grateful for your opportunities. So you're taking advantage of your opportunity. Mm-hmm. It's such a complex thing. And so I haven't used it, but the way y'all broke it down, I'm like, I love grit. Mm-hmm. I love grit. Mm-hmm. And it's all those things make you gritty because then you're resilient. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think grittiness is resilient to go be your best self, even amid adversity and all those things. So I don't use the word grit, but I'm going to.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a question off of that. Why do you think it is like if I'm watching a game and you see a player that you would describe as gritty, like everyone tends to gravitate towards that player and root for that player, right? Because why is that? Why do we look at, because when I was growing up in athletics, it was, oh, that's a lunch pail kind of guy. Like he brings his lunch pail to work. Lunch pail.
Pail.
Yeah. Like he brings his lunch to work. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just a blue collar type of mentality. He's just going to, every time the ball is in the air, he's going to be around it. Yeah. Right. So why is it that people are gravitating towards those kinds of players?
I think people that have an air of entitlement or that things that belong to them or that it's going to come easy, I don't think people actually respect that. They might live it and not catch themselves being there.
Yeah.
But I think there's something about our human nature that wants to fight that and root for the people that just appreciate the opportunity to get after it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You root, doesn't even have to be the underdog, but somebody that just works.
Right.
Like you just are like, I want you on my team.
Right.
And you root for people that you probably also look up to them.
Sure.
Right. And you see those qualities that you want to be like.
Absolutely.
Be like versus the people that take things for granted.
Yeah.
And I always knew, like, you know, I can only increase my vertical so much. I can only increase my 40 times so much.
Do dunk though, right?
Yeah, he can. Off of a ladder.
On an
He's
8-foot
awesome.
goal. But I always knew what I did have control over is my attitude. I had control over, you know, how tenacious I was going to be, the amount of work ethic that I put into it, all those things that I think make a player gritty, you know, or a team gritty. You know, I always hated playing against those teams that they're not going to fall back in a zone. They're going to be in your face all the time. And it's just the entire game from whistle to whistle is just, it's work. It is flat out work. And I hated playing against those teams.
Yeah. Well, the first letter is G, and that's for gratitude, right? And in answering his question, you mentioned that they appreciate the opportunity. You know, what does, you know, in your years of coaching, how have you taught gratitude to your kids?
A ton of ways. It's probably the most important thing I do. I'll give you the simple things. We have Thankful Thursday huddle. Every Thursday, we're going to put our toes around the circle. Yeah. We're going to all be in and we're going to share something that we're thankful for. Sometimes we'll split in groups and really dig into it. We do activities. Had a really cool one about 2 weeks ago. I had a pastor actually tell me a story, a guy named Sly in Mansfield. And he tells me a story about one of my players that called him with an assignment that we had given our team. And I didn't realize all the connections. They all line up. But I had my players do the gratitude experiment where they write a letter to somebody that they just really admire and appreciate in their life. Like just somebody who's been a person of impact and influence. She chose him. She wrote about him and then she called him. And I made them call and read the letter to that person. So she called him and read it, and he was telling me he had to pull over side of the road, sobbing, crying. He's like, it meant so much to me. But what he doesn't realize, or he may, I'm sure he does, is that how much it meant to her. And there's actually science behind it. There's this Harvard study on people that share gratitude and express gratitude are actually more grateful and happier. Yeah. There's a study that links gratitude to happiness. So I think as adults, it's our job to teach that because people don't always know that. Have a standard for what that looks like in spaces. Like if they're coming in and acting like, I don't want to be here, like this, you look at somebody would kill or die or just do anything to trade spaces with you in life. Yeah. And remind them of that when it comes out in those complaining moments or just not being appreciative moments. Yeah. Those are things we got to do every day. One day it's this kid, one day it's this kid, one day it's my coaching staff, and then back to me because human nature is to find all the struggles in the world and all those things. So those are some things that we do just every day. One more activity I love. These are my favorites. So yeah. I'm going to put y'all through this. Okay. So I want you to close your eyes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. This better not be a trick.
No.
Okay.
Close your eyes. Think about somebody that just gets under your skin. They have pushed every button this week. They've asked things that you've answered 6 times. Maybe they're blocking you feel like this is a great plan or your great goal or that this is what needs to be happening, and they are blocking your journey and your opportunities and your ability to serve and impact, and they are driving you crazy. Now pause.
Okay.
Now think about somebody who fills you up with joy. They love you completely, fully, wholly, just for who you are. They wrap their arms around you when you need it. They are your right, your go-to person. What did you notice happened to your mouth? Smile.
Yeah.
So here's what happens. The first time, if you're watching your faces, you're feeling it. You feel every negative emotion, the stress, the anger, the jealousy, the frustration, all the negative things in the world. But the moment you put your mind on gratitude, they all disappear. Every bad feeling, negative emotion immediately goes away. It is physiologically impossible for negativity and stress to exist in the same space as gratitude. We put them through stuff like that.
Yeah.
We got to check ourselves. It's human nature to think about these things. It's always coming in.
Sure.
We teach them how to think about their thoughts.
Yeah.
So you open that could be a whole podcast of gratitude,
for sure.
but it's important. It's one of our pillars, and we're committed to talking about it and practicing it.
Yeah. You know, without knowing, if you're listening to this, you know, grit is gratitude, respect, impact, and toughness. And as we were talking before the podcast, you know, you said, do you want to know what Tigers stands for? And Tigers is the Mansfield mascot. And it's, what is it, Brooke?
T is toughness.
And we have a toughness.
Yeah. I is integrity.
And we couldn't figure out how to explain integrity.
Well, that we
kinder
couldn't
and
spell
first
it.
graders.
We couldn't spell it. But you're right. It's tough to explain to kindergarten.
But I love impact. And if I had to swap that out, I would totally do impact. So I love those.
Yeah.
G, gratitude.
Same.
E is enthusiasm. I also love energy, but they like you could go either way with that.
Yep.
R, respect.
Same.
And then S is all of it. Just one of the most important things in life is service.
Yeah. And I had no idea.
I was going to ask. You had no idea?
I had no idea.
No,
I had no idea.
You sent me the notes on grit coming to talk about this. And I was like, Tiger values.
Yeah.
Oh, and I was like, I wish I would use impact. That's great too.
Yeah. You know, you mentioned, you know, we have to teach gratitude to our players or to the ones that are directly under us.
And model it.
So has there been an event in your life that you've had to go through that's enabled you to see gratitude in a different light?
Absolutely. I turned 21 years old in Iraq during the initial invasion of Iraq in 2003. Saw things that nobody should have to see in life in a true war. And saw what that country had to not only experience, but stay with, and that I got to come home. And the family that I missed overseas and our country and all the blessings we have. I'm coming home as a 21-year-old, and I remember driving down the street and just appreciating trees. I'm like, trees. Oh my God, what a blessing, you know? And I just literally, what a year for me to learn that for my life, because a lot of people at 21 are so focused on themselves. And it's easy to stay in that like comparison space, or what am I going to do space. And I was just thankful to be alive and home with family, seeing trees, you know, or really on a basketball court again. Like being on a basketball court and hearing the national anthem play was like, oh, this is so powerfully important to me. And I'm so thankful to be here. So to this day, like I can be on the court before a game. We could be playing DeSoto, who's number one in the nation at the time. And they've got 6 Power 5 kids on their team. And I'm like, I could think like this game's going to be really incredibly hard. Or I'm like, oh my gosh, I get to coach today. You know, and that came from that time in my life.
That's good. Man, that's good. You know, all that to say, I asked you that question to bring up. You know, it seems like in order to facilitate or foster an attitude of gratitude, there has to be something difficult that we have to walk through, right?
Yeah.
And so when we're teaching kids, and when you're teaching your girls, you know, about gratitude, like it's, you know, it's letting them know that it's okay to be in the toughness of what you're currently going through, because on the other end of it, you know, you see what it produces. I mean, it produces, you know, a development in one's character, right?
Yeah.
So I'll have to say that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Do you find it harder today than it has? I mean, you've been there
Good question.
doing stuff for 20 years like that. Is it getting harder to do that?
This is weird and may just be my perspective. As a high school coach, I found it's easier with our newer freshmen as a collective group, not in individuals. Like, I don't want to speak to an individual, but as a collective group, I feel like the kids that experienced COVID at a different time express it more openly than kids that were kind of sheltered during a formative time. Kids that kind of missed junior high and were still learning how to mature and don't. Junior high is a weird time. Like there's so much to that time and figuring out who they are. And I think the kids that were at home alone during that time, they're playing catch up.
Right.
But I feel like the trend is getting easier again, which that's just me. I haven't studied that for
no, I mean, that's good news.
Walls.
The eye test really can tell you a lot sometimes.
But with that, comparison is everywhere.
Yeah.
And it is the thief of joy. And these kids are on their phones scrolling. And I've already said this, but it's important to remind them that somebody would literally love to be in your shoes, no matter what shoes you're living in, no matter how bad your experience is right now.
Right.
There are people in this world that would just do anything to trade spots with you.
Right.
While they compare. That's happening more and more due to the phones in our hand and social media. So it's harder, but it's even more important, to point that out to them.
I love that. I was, we were having a conversation actually in our connection group a few Sundays ago, and the prevailing sentiment, because we were talking about homelessness, and the prevailing sentiment was you drive by somebody on the side of the road and you're like, I'm not giving them money because they could just go get a job. And my first reaction to that was, have you ever been in a position to hire somebody that's homeless that walks in and maybe they smell or they, certainly aren't dressed like, I don't care if you work at McDonald's, you're not hiring that person. And so to me, it goes back to the gratitude thing. Like, man, how blessed am I?
Absolutely.
How blessed am I? And sometimes I think we lose track of that, and it just kind of snowballs into our attitude. And we don't carry that positive attitude. Instead, we look around and we start pointing fingers at other people, and we find all the negativity in our life, and it just snowballs. And the person who said that meant no disrespect whatsoever, but that kind of thing just gets under my skin a little bit. And
Same. Yeah, I love that.
So anyway, it's just so much about just being thankful and listening to you talk about being on the sidelines and hearing the national anthem play and what that means to you. And there are so many people that song plays and they have no frame of reference that you have to that. And so they don't really understand. So your point that you really have to go through something to be able to be grateful. I am so grateful for my marriage today that I wasn't grateful for 15 years ago because I took it for granted. But to go through what we have gone through, raising children and just as a couple, man, I just have so much thankfulness for my wife, and just every day a chance to be a father again, a chance to be a husband again. Yeah. It makes such a huge impact on just your own day as you move forward. So,
Todd, did you know that I hope that every is the right word. Every season, every football season, Brooke goes out to the football field, and do you still do this?
I do still do this,
and teaches all the football players the importance of the flag, the American flag, and the national anthem.
We talk about what it means to me and service members and people who've served overseas, but also how to give proper respects and discipline to it. So, and how you do anything is how you do everything.
Yep.
I talk about the flag, and I don't have a picture of it here, but most of y'all know if you're looking at a soldier, the flag looks like it's going backwards.
Yeah.
You ever seen that?
Yeah, I do.
So the flag looks like it's going backwards, but it's also showing that no matter what you face, you're always moving forward and moving into the fight and moving through chaos and adversity. So I also remind them that our country can be in struggle. It doesn't mean that your community is not failing. It doesn't mean that there's not adversity, and it doesn't mean everything's perfect. I mean, look at our political elections, and everybody's fighting. Like, it doesn't mean it's naively happy, perfect. It does mean we pick it up and we charge through it because we have to stay united through it. So,
like,
every season's time.
Right,
so
season.
I've been really blessed to be in communities that appreciate and ask that.
Yeah.
Coach Wager started it. And then Coach George is like, I want that for my team. I'm like, let's go. Let's go, brother.
That's fantastic.
So, for sure. Man. I told you she was.
We're going to be incorporating that with our first grade.
That'll be part of the evaluation process.
Yeah.
We could talk forever about more about that, but back to grit. So the R is for respect. When we wrote the devotions, we talked a lot about respecting your opponent, respecting yourself as an individual, and playing hard and playing tough because God has put greatness inside of you. We talked about respecting your team. What would you say is the most important aspect of respect in youth sports? It doesn't have to be the ones that I mentioned, but when you think about respect in youth sports, what pops into your mind?
So there's a guy named Stephen Mackey, and he's really trying to influence and impact youth sports, and he's developed something called the Texas Way. And I love his pillar of respect is number one. It's just number one on everything, where how we try to protect the space for kids. And for his pillar number one, it's respect for others. And I love that. I've seen some really atrocious things in gyms that we don't need. We've all seen.
Yeah.
But some little silly things, like I used to ref upward here, right?
Yeah.
And I'm a high school head coach.
Yeah.
I've refed since I started reffing in high school. I know the game.
Yeah.
And I'm in a youth upward gym at church, and I've got parents taunting me.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm like, I just love practice. I've been going. It's an 80-hour week this week, and you're yelling at me. And I'm actually trying to teach your kid to be bigger than that. Like there was like a little tack foul, and I'm just like, what are we teaching kids?
Yeah.
Because your kids actually, when that parent disrespected me as a coach, what I actually saw was the kid gave themselves an excuse.
100%.
That kid was the best. This parent sticks out. I don't know where they're at now.
This happened in our gym, by the way. Yeah.
Because for
What's that mean?
I knew I was on here before. For many games in a row, I kept identifying this kid as the best player on the court in my head. And I wasn't trying to do anything like teach her a lesson. I was just letting the game play the way I thought it should be played.
Yeah.
But I noticed that when the parent was getting on to me as the official in the church league upward gym, the kid gave excuses to being weaker than they needed to be. And they stopped playing as hard, and they're like, I'm like, make the bucket. You are a strong, talented individual. Make the bucket, and if I call a whistle, go to the free throw line. So literally that parent's lack of respect for others negatively influenced their
100%.
And then we teach that. We model that. We are the line holders. So modeling respect for others, other players, other teams, other coaches, other officials, makes our kids be their best version of themselves. Play as well as they can. Stop giving them excuses. Everybody's going to give them excuses in life. Let's not be the ones that add to it. So when we respect others, we respect the kids that are absorbing from the adults. So if we're talking in an adult space, I think respect for others. I think when we model that as adults, the kids need to do the same thing.
Yeah.
I have a rule with officials. First of all, they're human. I've had those experiences. They're going to make mistakes. I give them about 7 bad calls. Not like, oh, I wish. I give them about 7 like bad calls before I'm going to call them over and be like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And I'm not going to sit in the bleachers even if I'm in a crowd or if I'm on the sideline, I'm going to sit there and yell at them. I'm going to give them 7 bad calls before I say a peep.
Todd, do you hear this? Not 1 bad call. She doesn't give him 2 bad calls.
7.
Not even questionable calls.
Yeah.
She gives him 7.
Right.
That seems like.
Have you ever had a bad day at work?
Yes, 100%.
How many on a good day, you're going to have 7 to 10 mistakes, right?
Yeah.
Easily. I mean, little mistakes. So I also have the factor of safety. If someone's going to get hurt, they're going to hear from me almost immediately. Yeah. If some kids just plow, I mean, if I know ahead of time, they're going to hear from me before the game. Like, watch this. I know what happens here. Watch this. Right. But if they're allowing something that's going to hurt and it's a safety issue, I will trump that 7 and they'll hear from me.
Yeah.
If it's a repeated same call, I'll be like, hey, can you watch that moving screen? It's happened 3 times in a row.
Right.
But there's no need.
Do you do it that calmly?
Usually.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Here's when I
she does.
Here's when I don't. When I do not control my head and I'm way too amped up and I'm making it about me. When I make it about the kids in the game,
my gosh, that is so good.
When I make it about the kids in the game, I can hold 7.
Right.
When it's me and my ego and I'm like, we gotta win. All right.
Yeah.
I can't stand this team. Like there's some teams I'm like, I'd hate playing them or I want to beat them, and I come out all amped up and then I'm like 2 calls, boom.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I will, that's my fault.
Right.
It's my fault.
Right.
Yeah.
I had a game last year. I wanted to win so bad. I'm not going to go to the story. I wanted to win so bad. It felt so not right, that things that had gone on.
Yeah.
And I blew up on call 2, up. And then I apologized to the ref about a call later. I said, I'm so sorry. That's not like me. I was a little too amped up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm too amped up.
Yeah.
It's my job to not be so amped up that I can't give them grace for certain calls.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that. We've talked about it. Gosh, it's been many, many podcasts ago, but you watch any NFL game on the sideline, you watch a side judge on any NFL game, and they are just getting berated from the first whistle by the head coach. Like they are just in their ear doing this the whole time. And I'm thinking, why do you even do that job? Like I couldn't do that job because I'd want to turn around and, not turn the other cheek. Right. Yeah. But you just, to see coaches do it and act the way that you're talking about is just phenomenal, because it's almost like more and more rare these days.
100%. Yeah.
But for you to say it the way that you did, which is, you know, if it's about me, then that's how it comes across. But if it's about your team, then you're able to just, you know, weather it and can. That is, talk about integrity.
Yeah.
That is integrity to me.
Yeah.
Well, I lost that one game. I did not have anything. I wanted to win so bad. I always want to win, but it was personal.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was like,
So now I want you, because of that, I want you to tell the story. I don't even know if we have time. I don't care. I want you to tell the story about the spokes and the wheel, about the integrity and what that means.
okay. I'm going to run you all through it.
Yes.
Just to make it easier. What's your definition of integrity?
So my definition of integrity is what you do when someone's not looking.
Awesome.
And I would say the same.
It's a really great definition. It's what I grew up with. And in the Army version of integrity and that leadership, it's doing what's legally and morally right.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
very open-ended.
Yep.
I feel like through a lot of times in my life, I felt like integrity was something you either had or didn't have. And that's so counter to what I believe in people being able to grow through failure and like be the best version of themselves. Like you might have small little integrity breaks, but you still can have integrity. And so I heard a definition of it. If you actually look at the different definition, so for something to have structural integrity, it means it is whole and complete and it's not missing any parts. So if we look at ourselves as maintaining integrity and we think of ourselves as being whole and complete, I want you to imagine a bicycle tire, and all the spokes that come off of it. If you're riding through life and you are whole and complete and you have your structural integrity on your tire, all those spokes are in place, your ride's going to be smooth. It's going to be good.
Yeah.
If you think of losing your parts and things breaking down and you break your integrity, those spokes break. As you break, if you break one spoke and it's just a small one, as long as you repair it and you don't keep breaking that same spoke, that same kind of spoke, you're going to be okay.
Right.
If you break big spokes, you got to repair them. But what happens is in life, we have little things that maybe we didn't have the courage to face that day. Maybe we didn't know better. And when you know better, you can do better. But I still need to repair that about me. And that can't be who I am. We repair those things as we grow.
Yeah.
And as we repair them, we can continue on the journey. But if we don't repair our broken spokes and we allow our little integrity breakdowns to be who we are, then our ride's going to not only be bumpy, but that tire's going to completely collapse and you can't get through like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And the reason that resonates so much with me is because whether it's sports or for me in police work, whatever it is, I have to trust someone enough, a teammate, to allow them to look at my own wheel, right? Because a lot of times I don't even recognize that I have a couple spokes missing or broken. So I have to allow a teammate to look at me and go, hey, you need to fix your spoke.
Yeah, I love that.
And even like, where we're at today, I need to trust her enough that if she says, hey, your spoke is broken, that I'm not going to be defensive and be like, you know what, check your own spoke.
Yeah.
But,
what a great addition to that analogy.
Just to allow somebody else to speak into my life.
Check your own spokes. See, I need to add that to my...
Write that down. I said that. Write that down.
I talk to these high school kids, and one of my things is some of them, sometimes they think it's funny to break a spoke.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's not funny. Like, haha, broke a spoke. Broke another spoke. Like, that's not cool. That's what's going to break down your ride in life is you think it's funny to keep breaking spokes and brag about breaking spokes.
Yeah.
But not just telling somebody check your own spokes.
Well,
what a powerful addition.
What do you do? Like, so we call it a post-engagement check. If you're in some kind of engagement, right? And let's say that you have to fire rounds downrange or whatever, the first thing that you do is you check yourself to make sure you're not hit, right? And then you reload your magazine. And then once that's done, the next person will do it. And you're covering them and you're looking out for each other.
Yeah.
A lot of times we're raking each other to make sure there's no wounds, right? And so, but the only reason I'm allowing somebody to do that is because I'm in the trenches with them.
Yeah.
I'm a better
that's good.
team.
You're in the trenches with them.
Because if I trust you with my life to make sure I don't have any holes in my body that I shouldn't have, then we're going to be a better team. We're going to be a better fit because we're going to fight for each other.
I love that.
So if I allow somebody else to check my spokes, then that means that there's enough, chemistry between us or trust.
But you also checked your own before you checked theirs, because if you're not whole and healthy and able, then it doesn't help you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
I think Jesus said something about that.
Yeah, a little bit.
You know, you should, take the plank out of your own eye before you go and get the speck out of your brother's eye.
Right.
Sorry, we give snaps in
Yeah.
wisdom.
Yeah. Very good.
That's good. So the I is for impact. We said we couldn't explain integrity to 4 and 5-year-olds, so we went with impact.
Yeah.
We went with impact.
Do better.
Listen, Ted. Here's a bicycle. Will.
Yeah.
Don't break his bones. What? No. So I is for impact. Who's had the greatest impact in your life?
Ooh. Christ. It's interesting. I don't go to this church anymore, but I walked in today and I remembered Sunday school, and I'm like, what a healthy place to have this conversation. The people in life, my family, my friends, there's not a one spot. It's the wholeness that I'm able to feel through my relationship with Christ that has grown through all the connections and all the relationships. There's not a one for me. Sports, my dad, is my guy, taking me to all the, my uncle's football games and being on my basketball stuff. But my mom was so big on prayer and bringing me here. But the community here, I think right now it's really hitting me that foundation is so important. Even though lives, you move and you get different communities, this was such a foundational piece. Yeah.
Which goes back to the...
Can I tell a story?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Dr. David George
DG
was my pastor here, and he baptized me in 5th grade. And we'll talk about something later I would imagine you're going to lead into, but Brenda George, his wife, sent me a stone from the Valley of Elah this year.
Wow.
For David and Goliath to remind me that
that's
bigger
cool.
than your giants, and
that's cool.
God's faith in a very physical form. And so the people, when I walk in the halls, I'm joking about us wanting to go to khakis after church. But the reality is there's really is a firm foundation that doesn't just go away. We're not here every Sunday. So
that's good. How sports impacted your life? Going back to impact.
How has it not? It has been a part of everything I've learned. It's taught me all the life lessons, on and off the court, the things that you have to battle through, resiliency, how to overcome adversity, how to face things that are bigger than you and go charging the hill.
Yeah.
I can't think of a way it's not touched my life.
Yeah, that's good.
So good. I mean, what was it? I was watching something the other day and they were like, you learn all these cliche things about, teamwork and resiliency and all this kind of stuff. And it sounds cliche, but it's really not.
All of it.
It's real. It's real.
And friendships and everything.
Yeah.
I don't know what sports hasn't touched.
Right.
I think that this conversation goes back to what you were talking about, just with, checking your own spokes. You have to be willing to be, open and honest with people, which is, something I'm not the best at, but I think that we're always learning and getting better.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Community is really important, which is what you just said as far as impact.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was listening to Ed Lamance talk about this not too long ago about we mentioned kids these days, they're on their phones or they're on whatever electronic technology, whatever, because there's that dopamine hit that you get when you're on it and you just get addicted to it.
But the likes and
but the thing that naturally gives you that same dopamine hit is community. It's the actual conversations, and I mean physically it's exercise, right? But when you're in community and you're having those conversations with people, you get that same kind of dopamine hit.
Yeah, that connection, like real connection, real conversations about real stuff. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just like when you walked into my office the first 30 minutes for this podcast, I mean, I got a little dopamine hit.
Yeah.
I was just sitting there. Right? So, okay, last one, toughness. If toughness is defined as the ability to deal with hardships or cope in difficult situations, talk a little bit about what you're currently going through in this season's theme of what your shirt says, being relentlessly optimistic.
Okay, so break down what I'm going through right now.
Yeah.
So I'm battling stage 3 melanoma cancer. I don't know where I want to take that to, but I'm currently, I won't show the port, but I have a port right here. Yeah. Named him Harry Porter. You'll find it me in life. I'm like, stuff's hard. Let's enjoy it. We're going to be lighthearted, and I take it serious, but I'm also like, it can be funny.
Yeah.
It's like, so got a port, and every 3 weeks I go get treatment, and I'm very blessed to be on immunotherapy. The advancement in treatment's been really, really impactful for a lot of people that have these struggles. So I'm hopeful to be done at the end of this year, at the end of 17 treatments, but we're just taking it one day at a time. So I won't go through the whole like diagnosis story, but when I was diagnosed, my doctor's going through all the things on the phone, what to expect, what's next. And I kind of felt like it was Charlie Brown's teacher is like, I'm hearing like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I actually have cancer. And this was before I was diagnosed with stage 3. This is when she didn't know what level it was. And she said, these are usually not that big of a deal. I just encourage you to be cautiously optimistic. And I'm like, I heard Charlie Brown's teacher. I'm trying to process. And then I'm like, okay, thank you. And I hang up. And I'm like, she doesn't know me very well. I'm not cautiously very anything. I wish I was a little more cautious. Like, so I am relentlessly optimistic. And I'm like, yeah, that was good. I thought of that. And I was like, I'm going to tell you, I did not create that. So I thought, like, I felt inspired by my own self in that moment. Ego check. Go through a little process. I won't bore you all with the details. I had a couple surgeries. I had a port in. I had the cancer out. And I finally, after about a month, I'm getting back on my row machine. And I'm trying to get myself like physically just moving a little bit. Yeah. And I'm rowing. And then I look to my left and I see this book that I had read about a year prior. And I'm like, huh. And I clearly wasn't rowing very hard. I picked the book up. And I'm like, I love this book. I haven't looked through it in so long. And I open it up, and there's a chapter called Relentless Optimism. And I was like, plagiarize. I took that I think leaders are readers, and you try to you plant seeds before you need them. So I planted the seed, and I like really felt it, and I really lived what was inside of this chapter in this book. And the book was written by. It was a guy that was the sports psychologist for Jay Wright at Villanova men's basketball, one of the best sports psychologists in the country. Yeah. And he was also a military police officer who turned 21 in Vietnam. I turned 21 in Iraq. So really randomly, I won't go through all the boring details, but one day not too long ago, I emailed him. I was like, hey, got a story for you. I plagiarized you, but also I just want to tell you thank you. It means a lot to me. This is what I'm going through. And I was like, by the way, I know you're a doctor and you're awesome. I said, would you be my mentor? And so he's now my mentor, informal. Right. We have conversations like once a month. I'm like, you're talking to me about being at Madison Square Garden, about like how your players develop mental toughness as they're coming into the huddle. And but he also bought like 29 of these shirts for his granddaughter's soccer team. That's awesome. I was like, and he's like, and he credited me with it. I go, he was like, thank you so much. Your message is going to be so important. And I go, did you forget that you wrote this? It's your message. But he believed that when he wrote it, it was for people to take as a seed and use in their own ways. And I'm like, well, I'm using it. I'm stealing it. It's on a t-shirt. So anyways, it's a fun addition to a very challenging time. Right. But I'm super blessed. I get a little fatigued, but that's, so does everybody. You're going to have different things, different days. But it allows me to practice toughness and also practice habits that allow me to be tough. I got to pay attention to sleep and what I'm eating and all those things, because if I take for granted my spirit, what I'm putting in my body, my sleep, all those things, then I can't be tough. You can't be tough if you sacrifice your habits. So
could you say that again, please? That was good.
You can't be tough if your habits are not. Right. And it doesn't mean you've got to always be perfect and disciplined, but I believe in 4 S's: spirit, sleep, substance, and sweat. I'm like putting myself on the spot. You find a way to sweat every day. Physical toughness produces more mental toughness. Mental toughness produces more physical toughness. They work together. So sweat every day. Spirit, I know we're at church, but it doesn't have to be church and Bible. It can just be like sitting with yourself and like checking your heart and like but it also is spirit and filling your tank with wisdom and the word. All those things. Substance, it's not just eating and drinking. It's also, what are you scrolling? So what are you putting in your body and what are you putting in your mind, and also allowing to come into your mind. So choosing what you read. I I on Twitter a lot for my school, and I'm just like blocking people. I'm not going to say on here who I block when we're off. I'll tell you, I block so many public figures. I'm like, nope, don't want to hear from you today. And they're on all sides, left, right, everything. I'm like, don't want to hear from you. I just block them. And then I'll laugh and be like, oh, I can't even read that person because they're blocked. Because my substance, like, you don't get in here. You don't get to walk through my mind with your dirty feet. Right? And so
that's good.
Protect that and then sleep. I used to really try to get 8 hours. I know that's really hard, especially in season.
Yeah.
If I'm getting under 6 hours, I'm like a toddler functioning in the world.
Same.
About to be on a temper tantrum. Like when you protect those things and you sleep, you sweat, you protect your spirit, and you protect what comes in and out, or you put in your body with your mind and physically, you can be tough.
Right.
That's so good.
Can't really be tough till that. And then the mindset stuff too.
Yeah.
Man.
Love it.
I need to write those for
my ramble.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Man.
She also said readers are leaders.
I heard her say that for sure. Or Todd.
Podcasters.
Yeah. Todd. So thanks, Brooke. Todd reads way more than I do.
But that is always something that has been not something I've been good at. Right. But once I started to get at leadership positions, that's something I've always been told, and so I became more of now I'm a voracious reader. Like I can't get enough. I just love it because there's so many good ideas out there that are not mine that I can pick up and kind of like you. I'm kind of ripping it off, but it works for me and it might work for somebody. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah, that's a good word.
Okay, well, last question, Brooke. This is winning with the home team. We want to empower families, as they're walking through youth sports and, even youth sports encompasses high school and junior high and things like that. What 3 pieces of advice would you give to parents whose kids are participating in youth sports?
Number 1, the 6 most important words you can say, no matter if it's a great game, bad game, whatever they're going through. The 6 most important words you can say after a game is, "I love to see you play." Period. I did that with my own family as a coach. I don't do that to your kids. Your coaches won't be saying that. They're correcting them, and sometimes they're taking withdrawals out of them because they're having to give corrective feedback. They don't need that everywhere. They need to remember that at the end of the day, whether they are an NBA player, NFL player, or they're only going to play through 1st grade, that you love to see them play. Period.
Yep.
I don't know where I stole that from, but I tell that at every parent meeting every year, and I hope they listen.
Right.
Yep.
Number 2, let them fix their own mistakes and go through their own struggles. You will be surprised at how strong they are and what they can get through. Obviously, we're there to support from anything unethical or immoral, but as far as hard, they can handle it. They will surprise you with how great they can be at it. Stop trying to fix their problems.
That's huge.
And then 3, show up. Showing up matters. Wow, I almost got emotional. Did get emotional, but I'm going to breathe. You would be surprised over almost 20 years of coaching how many kids are looking in the bleachers for their parents, and also how many kids don't because they know they're not going to be there. And it can be really powerfully inspiring when you see somebody that's gritty and they show up no matter what they're going through, and they find a way to show up, and their kids looking for them. Like I know my mom.
See that?
I know my mom's she's at cancer treatment right now, but she's going to be here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that she's Superwoman. Like, and I'm not saying you got to do that, people. I'm just saying like, these are the stories I see. Yeah. And then I also see full teams where there's one parent in the crowd, and my heart breaks for them. I'm like, you don't have a single parent, and the whole stands for the whole team. And then we wonder why that team struggles so much. You matter, parents. You matter. I love to see you play is more important than any tactical feedback you give them, no matter how great you were. And let them fix their messes and show up.
Yeah, that's good.
Man, I am an Arlington High School father. I love watching my son play, right? But now I'm a Mansfield fan.
Let's go. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's infectious. It is. It is.
By the way, I love Coach Peach.
Yeah, he's great. He's a great coach.
Shout out Coach Peach.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is. It's infectious. The optimism that you have comes across. And I do have one final question.
Yeah.
We're already over time, so it doesn't matter. How do you sustain it? Because you go through every day and there are things that get thrown at you that just try to knock you
Great
down.
question.
How do you sustain that relentless optimism?
There's lots of things. I'm going to give you a tool that I just got that's been really helpful for me to ground lately, because this has been a harder year than normal.
Yeah.
So I'm already practicing gratitude, right? I've already got my 4 S's. Those are my foundation.
Right.
There's a practice that I'm doing my doctorate at Creighton right now. And my very first course was on self-reflection and reflective practices in leadership.
Okay.
And I'm like, this seems weird for my doctorate, for that to be like, it was all about us. And this is a Catholic practice, but I found that it's not really Catholic. It's just really great in a practice. It's called LT3F. And it's, you start your day with prayer for light and clarity. And for me, I've added to that hope, inspiration, and creativity. I want to be creative in my life. I want to be hopeful despite all the things, and hope, inspired, and creative. So, but the actual practice is L, pray for light and clarity. So whatever's surrounding you, like it could be melanoma, and I'm like, God, give me clarity to make sure I'm making the right steps, doing the right things. And that kind of grounds you there. T is to spend your last 24 hours, think about your last day, the full 24 hours, and think about everything that you're grateful for. So it is the gratitude practice again, but it's very scripted of from here to here, and you walk through your entire day being grateful for things. What happens when that arises is that you're naturally going to have things that aren't feel-good things. So the first F is feelings. And as you explored that, the 24 hours of thankfulness, you explore the biggest feeling that pulled you away from that gratitude. And then you pray on that. So you've got light, clarity, thankfulness, pray for the feeling that you were not grateful for during that last day. And then you focus on your next 24 hours. So you open up your calendar. I'll actually go to my phone if I'm not driving. And I'll look at my calendar for the day, and I'll think about everything that I need to go through. So that's my focus on the next 24. And then I also pray on anything that gave me, the last F is feeling again. So you pray for anything that is makes you anxious, makes you angry, makes you resentful. So it really has helped me stay grounded. And gratitude is a practice, and I'm not always good at it. I'm not a good journaler. Like, I'm so happy to be here.
Right.
But it's like, if you really just walk through your day and you're like, I am not feeling it. Like sometimes you're like, I need to pray that I feel that.
Right.
Like, you just you can't think of more than 3 things you're thankful for yesterday. Maybe that's what I need to pray about. Like, maybe I need to fix my own heart. And so the reflective practice of sitting with yourself is powerful. And I did not do that until literally January, when I started that class. I was like, I'll give it a shot. It was in the book. I'm like, we'll see. I'm gonna give it a whirl. And I did a 30-day challenge with a group of friends that were not, some were Christian, some weren't, some are just had no religious affiliation. Out of 13 people that just did the 30-day challenge with us, 12 of them were like, let's stay in a group together and let's keep doing this. And one of them is on, I'm like scattered. I'll probably do it 3 days a week now. She's on, like, she sent me a picture of her journal the other day. It's like day 205. Like, I'm so proud of you. You're, So it's really, good. It is a great practice for leaders amid chaos. That's my newest. But you got to have habits. Also.
Oh, so important.
So it's just being intentional with your time and what you focus your mind on those things.
Practice.
Yes, a reflective practice.
In this distracted world, it's easy to just go, and you don't even know if your soul is like, spirit is happy to do what you're doing. Like, am I even doing what I'm supposed to be doing? And I know that you work at a church, and it's probably normal for you to pray every day, but it's actually not always that common for people that are not living in a church.
Right.
But coming here every day, it's easy to go. Especially families. I'm sure they're waking up kids and doing this. Take your car ride, LT3F. Sit with your spirit. You don't always have to.
And us too, right? I mean, like, we have to be intentional.
I'm sure you do, but it's also part of your job. So I would imagine you do more than me is all I'm saying. I would imagine you pray more than me, but that's
Man, Well, Brooke, we're out of time. We could talk for days, but we're out of time. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Man.
Yeah.
I love you. And I now love you.
I know.
So,
I feel like we're kindred spirits.
We are.
Yeah.
We're going to end this podcast and they'll talk for another 3 hours on so much. So,
Yeah.
man, hey, thanks for listening to Winning with the Home Team. We're all about just empowering parents to make their family life better, mainly through Jesus. So thank you so much, Brooke, and we'll see you next time.